this video, I'm going to be taking a closer look at the origins of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and in particular, I'm going to be taking a look at the faithful and discreet slave class. I've noticed when I talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it be in person or whether it be on the internet, that there seems to be some confusion among them about the origins of the faithful and discreet slave. Some think that Jehovah's Witnesses have always been around, that there's always been a remnant of Jehovah's Witnesses since the time of Pentecost. And other Jehovah's Witnesses you talk to seem to think that there was a great and total apostasy and that truth was totally lost, and beginning with Russell, they have restored the true Christian faith throughout the years. So why is there so much confusion among Jehovah's Witnesses on which it is? Is it a restoration or is it a succession? Has the faithful and discreet slave always been there since the time of Pentecost? Well, I personally think that the confusion runs so deep because the Watchtower over the years has taught contradictory stories in regards to this. At some points they teach that there was a great apostasy and total apostasy and it needed to be restored. And on the other hand, they have taught that there has always been a remnant of faithful believers since the time of Pentecost. Speaking through the Watchtower magazine of January 15, 1975, the Jehovah's Witnesses described the origin of the faithful slave like this. They said, "Jesus Christ is the head of the Christian congregation. His slave and his words show that he would strengthen them to feed his domestics right down through the centuries. Apparently, one generation of slave class fed the succeeding generation thereof, as well as continuing to feed themselves." So in this story, the Jehovah's Witnesses are saying that there has always been a faithful slave throughout the years, and from generation to generation, right down through the centuries, one slave has fed the next slave all the way up until the present day. And of course this is very important for Jehovah's Witnesses because they believe that you cannot find scriptural truth outside the faithful and discreet slave organization. The December 1st, 1981 Watchtower publication says this: "Unless we are in touch with this channel of communication that God is using, we will not progress along the road to life no matter how much Bible reading we do." So the faithful and discreet slave has been necessary throughout all generations because the Bible is not enough for you to understand about God. You need them in order to learn the truth. But this poses actually a huge problem for Jehovah's Witnesses. So why does the story that the Jehovah's Witnesses have put forth through their publications that there has been this generation after generation of slave feeding the next generation cause such a problem for Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, the problem lies with Charles Russell. As far as the Jehovah's Witnesses can trace their roots back, they can only go as far as Russell. They can't go anywhere before him. So Russell is the key starting point. Now, if the Jehovah's Witnesses story is true that one generation fed the next, then Russell would have been fed by one of these generations. But that's not how the Watchtower themselves tells the story of Charles Taze Russell. They paint Russell as an independent Bible student who had separated himself from Christendom and went straight to the Bible with some other Bible students and started to search for truth. And he began to restore the truth. So, therefore, you can't have one generation feeding the next generation up until the current day because Russell would not have been associated with them. As a matter of fact, in the Watchtower of September 15, 1895, Charles Taze Russell not only didn't join an organization, he says beware of organizations and calls them wholly unnecessary. So this is a big problem for Jehovah's Witnesses because they claim out of one side of their mouth that they have roots all the way back to Jesus where one generation is feeding the next, yet they claim that their founder never joined any sort of organization like that he did independent Bible study. Another clear contradiction for the Jehovah's Witnesses is their teaching I mentioned before, where they say it doesn't matter how much Bible reading you do, you'll never come to the truth without the organization. But clearly, that's not the case, and they've refuted themselves because Russell, once again, did not join an organization and did not get his teaching from an organization. They claim that he went straight to the Bible. So when you're looking at your foundation, I think you really need to consider what it's based on. You know, is it based on these contradictory teachings like the Jehovah's Witnesses, or is it based on something sound? I can tell you for certain that even though the Jehovah's Witnesses will tell you in their publications, as they have done, that you can't come to the true knowledge of the faith through the Bible has been far more consistent than the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Bible is not in need of constant adjustments and corrections. The Bible has been a solid rock since the time it was written up until the time now. Jehovah's Witnesses have needed constant adjustments and failed expectations and false prophecies and doctrinal errors. So who's your foundation? Who do you trust? Think about it. God bless.